what does it take to have a global mindset? In an article written by Mansoor Javidan, Meriti Gardner, and David Bowen, titled Making It Overseas, the authors discuss the various elements that include having a global mindset. Essentially, having a global mindset requires having three types of capital. First is the intellectual capital, second is the psychological capital, and third is the social capital. The intellectual capital first means that a person has an understanding of business strategies for expanding globally, meaning that a person should ask himself or herself, do I have knowledge as to what business strategies are needed in order to penetrate a certain market? Do I have an understanding of the history, geography, and other cultural aspects in relation to a specific culture or specific country? Do I have an understanding of the major religions of the world and their impact on society? And one might be surprised to find that this is one of the questions that was put here as a measure or a sub-measure of intellectual capital. But those of you who are in marketing, they understand that understanding consumer behavior is very important to be able to sell, to be able to penetrate certain markets. And religion is one of the main contributors, main drivers of consumption in today's markets. So an understanding of world religions, at least main world religions, is important to develop intellectual capital. And finally, to what extent do you have the ability to discuss the economic and political ramifications of world events? Do you have an understanding of the political events? Do you keep yourself informed about what's happening around you? This is very important in determining the level of intellectual capital. These four are not the only dimensions of intellectual capital, but they signify, they provide a good indication about the importance of this dimension of having a global mindset. The intellectual capital alone is not enough because one needs to develop a different type of capital. And this is what is termed psychological capital. So by psychological capital, we ask questions such as, to what extent do you enjoy exploring different parts of the world? Are you open to experience in terms of understanding how other cultures operate, what happens in other countries? Do you have a certain desire to learn about other countries, their cultures, their customs? Do you see yourself challenging it in terms of being exposed to new traditions and new ways of doing things? And do you feel comfortable when you are put in a different situation, especially in a cross-cultural context? If your answer is in the affirmative along these four, this is a strong indication that you have developed a certain level of psychological capital. A third type of capital that is also important in developing a global mindset is social capital. And social capital similarly revolves around understanding other cultures. To what extent do you find yourself able to work effectively with people who are different than you? Do you cherish the moments that you have with people from a different culture? Do you enjoy activities where you are able to explore new things with people from other cultures? Do you have the ability and the willingness to do that? And fourth, you understand, to what extent do you find yourself able to understand the nonverbal expressions of people from several different cultures? People do not only communicate in words, whether written or spoken. People also communicate in symbols. And some cultures emphasize symbols more than others. They emphasize the importance of the unspoken word and the unwritten word in communication. So a proper understanding of the importance of those things helps develop a person's social capital, which is in turn a very important aspect of having a global mindset. Ask yourself, to what extent am I able to develop my intellectual capital, my psychological capital, and my social capital? I'm not assuming that each one of us has a great exposure to all types of capital. These things need to be accessed, these things need to be learned. But by time, if you want to develop, along the hierarchy of the organization, if you want to reach the upper echelon in a company that operates globally, that operates across cultures, you will need to develop that type of understanding.